Real hide-and-seek horror stories, true animated tales, you must see.
When I joined Stoneheart Asylum as an apprentice, I was warned by many who were already working there, but having nurses and other workers around, I never felt threatened, except this one time. It was a Sunday morning. I was in my office, working on some urgent files when Dr. Yoshida walked in. I stood up in respect, but he gestured for me to sit down, saying,
Michael, I'm leaving for an important conference tomorrow. Meanwhile, a new patient will be boarding with us. Do you think he can handle his admission and the entire procedure? Of course I can, Doctor. Good. Nurse Riley will be with you to help. But before I leave, I need to tell you something about this new patient.
I could see a frown on Dr. Yoshida's face. He looked worried for some reason.
Is something wrong with this patient, Doctor? Don't be ridiculous, Michael. There's always something wrong with them. That's why they're sent here. But this man...
The hesitation in his voice surprised me. We've been housing mental patients who have been infamous for their violent records. Then what is so new about this one?
Why? What did he do, Doctor? Not much. Just date his wife because she tasted delicious. What? Yeah, that's what he told the cops when they discovered what was left of her in the basement freezer. Good lord! Just be careful with this one, okay? And don't be alone with him. Like, ever.
Dr. Yoshida left, giving me goosebumps. I drank water as my throat suddenly felt dry in an unknown fear. Around 4 in the evening, Nurse Riley came to my office.
Michael? He's here.
I could see fear in her eyes. It wasn't hard
Man,
to
that better
guess
not be
that
my
this-
partner. I may as well be alone.
Here.
I could see fear in her eyes. It wasn't hard to guess that this patient's history had successfully managed to set a panic in her as well. We stood in the hallway. The big door slammed open and I saw 4 security guards escorting a man. His hands in
Oh, this is wild. This one about to be
the
real.
hallway. The big door slammed open and I saw 4 security guards escorting a man. His hands and legs were shackled with heavy iron chains. He had his face down to the floor and dragged his feet like he was too tired to walk.
I didn't get his name, by the way.
Dagan Bradford.
The man suddenly stopped.
Keep moving, now!
One of the security guards yelled at him, but he just stood there with his head looking down.
Hey, are you deaf? Don't try our... Mr. Bradford?
Hearing my voice, he looked up. The moment I saw his face, a cold shiver ran down my spine. His eyes gave me the creeps. He smiled ear to ear and asked me a pretty weird question.
Do you like hide and seek? Sorry? The game where you all hide and I will seek you. Do you like that?
His voice sounded like a snake.
Not no more.
Everything about him was enough to scare people off. But I had to do my job, so I awkwardly smiled back.
Yeah, sure. We'll play someday, Mr. Bradford. Now, please go to your room.
He started walking again, but the smile remained on his face. While walking past me, he moved his head like a happy kid and whispered,
He likes hide and seek. He said he'll play.
The guards took him toward D, and I wiped the sweat off my forehead.
Are you all right, Michael?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I came back to my office and finished the rest of my work. When I finally got off, I set out for my usual round to each ward. A thunderstorm was starting to brew. As I made my way through the long and empty corridors, my heartbeat got faster. The realization of being alone with a building full of mental patients never gave me any ease. To be honest, when I reached Ward D, a huge bolt of lightning struck and the power went out. I always carried a flashlight because this happened often during monsoon season. Generally, the workers take 5 to 10 minutes to turn the power back on, so I didn't think much about it and walked in front of each cell to check on the patients. Each cell door had a small glass in the middle, so we could get a good look inside without having to get close to the patients. Dagan Bradford was kept in cell number 333. I could feel my legs shaking once I reached outside of his cell. first,
His
I
voice so
looked
low.
inside the glass but didn't reach outside of his cell. At first, I looked inside the glass but didn't see him. So, I flashed the light and his face popped up.
Ah! Did you come to play hide and seek with me? No, just to check up on you. Would you mind opening the door, Doctor? You know I can't do that, Mr. Bradford. Why not? It'll be so much fun. I swear. Try to get some sleep, okay? The power will turn on in a minute.
I turned to walk away and immediately got startled by his scream.
Hey! Don't you dare leave me alone! I said open the door. I understand you.
But he didn't let me finish. He started banging his head on the glass while screaming.
Open the door! Open the door!
He was going crazy. I ran to press the alarm button on the other side of the wall.
Yeah,
I
run.
heard the glass break followed by a click. With
He ain't
shivering
breaking them.
hands, I looked back. The door of cell 333 was half open. I realized the power outage had resulted in the shutdown of the electrical security system. And somehow Dagon figured that out.
Dagon?
His head slowly peeked in from the doorway. The sick smile on his face was back.
Do you know which part of the human body doesn't need to be cooked? What? It's the eyeballs. They're better whole, and they're always wet and squishy. So they go down the throat easily. Ah! Nurse Riley! Security! Security!
I ran. I never looked back to see if he followed me, but when I reached my office, the power came back. The alarms went off like crazy as one of the cell doors had been broken. I explained everything to the workers, and they immediately ran to check cell 333. But Dagon Bradford was nowhere to be found. I don't know how he managed to escape and where he is right now, but I still wake up screaming in my sleep. His face peeking behind the door visits me in my nightmares. He licks his tongue, saying,
The eyeballs, they're wet and go down the throat so easily.
That was a crazy story, dog. Okay, so that one wasn't real. I kind of figured once he got to the part where he was like, he heard a glass break, and I guess from dude banging his head on the window. I was like, there's no way he was going to break one of those type of windows with a head bang. But then also the power outage, he said it happened many times. I'm like, damn, so the system not shut down the other times, because it's the only time it happened to shut down. At that point, I started to think fake. But regardless, though, that was a good story, man. I ain't gonna lie. I enjoyed that one. I was hoping he was gonna make him somehow play hide and seek, though. That would have made it even more scarier, too, which would have been fun. Like, ooh, shit. All right, no more going back, no more.
The friend trio is a powerful dynamic, even if it gets toxic. A lot of other people can come and go on the peripherals, but few of them stick. I think they tend to get scared off by the insanity that goes on between the three main friends. I constantly think back to one example when I try to explain this. Back when I was a teenager, I played a lot of Manhunt with my two friends Mark and Reese. To us, it was really just a cooler name for hide and seek. We also boxed and played airsoft and that sort of thing, but Manhunt was our favorite thing because it was the easiest one to get people for. We would always go to this one park to do stuff. It had two areas with a creek running between them and a couple bridges connecting them. One side was wide open and flat, while the other side was hillier, with a lot more trees and bushes. There was one night where there was one of those full supermoons out, so we brought 4 other people along with us to play Manhunt. The side with all the foliage was the better side for Manhunt.
Hey, this sounds fire so far. I ain't gonna lie, dog.
With us to play Manhunt.
That would be fun
The
as
side
hell.
with all the foliage was the better side for Manhunt, so that's where we started out. Unfortunately, we were only able to get through a single round before we were attacked by this insane feral homeless dude. He was completely off it and acting super territorial. It looked like he'd just come back from transforming into a werewolf. All of his clothes were tore up, his hair was matted together, and his skin was completely crusted over. He jumped out of the bushes and scared one of our friends so bad that they almost went home. But Mark, Reese, and I stepped in.
Ah, get away! Get away! Get away! This is my bush! All these bushes are my bushes! This is my territory!
Hey man, what's your problem? Leave her alone. This is a public park.
Do you want to get bit, huh? I'll turn you.
Homeless dude.
Dude, there's one of you and 7 of us. Hey man, this dude's crazy. We probably shouldn't mess with him. Let's just go to the other side. Yeah, I think you're right. Reese was always the sensible one who kept us out of trouble. We decided to leave feral dude alone and went to the other side of the creek to avoid him. We also made a rule not to go across the creek where his quote-unquote territory was, so that nobody would run into him. On that note, we had to convince a few of the others to keep playing, as they were really scared by the encounter. We managed to keep things going, though, and we played a few more rounds of Manhunt without any issue. There was one problem, though. That side of the park wasn't great for hide and seek because of the fact that it was so open. Mark was the first one to be the hunter and found everybody in about 2 minutes, and then, when he was hiding, he kept getting found before everyone else. He certainly had some words for it. Man, this blows! This side of the park sucks for Manhunt. There's nowhere to hide. Maybe you're just bad at hiding with that big fat head of yours. Yeah, right. I'd like to see you last longer than 3 minutes. I will. Just watch me, if you can find me. Since he was complaining about it, I made it a point to be the last one found the next round. I got down and dirty with a handful of bushes that were there to avoid being seen. By the end of the round, I had been impaled.
Some rounds do get serious though, where you legit like, bro, I can't even think about being scared. I got to get in here and do this. I don't care what you say. Hide and seek can get real, dog. It used to get to a point where I used to be on a whole nother block. Like I didn't even care. I jump in a somebody random garage. Then
Longer than 3 minutes. I will. Just watch me, if you can find me. Since he was complaining about it, I made it a point to be the last one found the next round. I got down and dirty with a handful of bushes that were there to avoid being seen. By the end of the round, I had been impaled by 3 different thorns and was covered in dirt, but I won. That meant I was up to be the hunter for the next round. But of course, I made sure to rub it into Mark's face. See? I told you. You just gotta be good. I could tell he was upset because he didn't have a comeback. All he had was the mean look in his eyes. It only made me excited to see what he would do in
Doggy ball, I ain't gonna lie, those moments, strangely, dog, it's funny to see your partner, man, like, ooh, yeah, he about to swing. Oh, the nostalgia is so beautiful, this video. Let's go back a little bit. Doggy ball, hot.
Good. I could tell he was upset.
He about to go
because
beat
he
up
didn't
that
have a
fiend.
comeback. All he had
that
was the
homeless
mean look
dude.
in his eyes. It only made me excited to see what he would do in the next round. I found everybody else pretty quickly, but I couldn't find Mark. At first, I was glad that he was stepping up his game. All 6 of us went looking for him, but after a while, still, nobody had seen him. We searched all over the park, in every bush and behind every tree, but he was nowhere to be found. After long enough, we all reconvened at the starting point. We were starting to suspect that Mark had broken the rules about not going to the other side, and we were about to give up and start calling his name when we heard a scream. Ah! A chill ran through my whole body. I knew it was Mark, and it was coming from the other side of the park. Everyone rushed over and followed the sound of the screaming to the largest bridge over the creek. We stopped there, knowing he was below us, and now we could hear something else. Scraps of clothing and both of Mark's shoes were floating down the creek, too. The others were too scared, but Reese and I jumped down to help Mark. That's when we saw the struggle that was underway beneath the bridge. Mark and the freak were fighting each other, both of them screaming like crazy people and rolling around in the shallow current. But by the time we got there, Mark was starting to lose. The freak was trying to hold his face underneath the water. Reese and I ran over and pulled Mark's attacker off of him. Run, man, run! Screw that! We held the feral freak back so Mark...
Just got a point to prove, huh?
Screw that!
Know when to take them L's.
We held the feral freak back so Mark could run away, but instead he picked up a rock the size of his fist and smacked the dude upside the head with it. Reese and I both felt him go limp in our arms, so we dropped him face up, just to make sure he wouldn't drown. Then we ran off. We helped Mark up the banks and met up with the others. Our bro was covered in bite and scratch marks all over his body. Obviously, we all went home and never played in that park again, since the police never even bothered to do anything about it. Also, unsurprisingly, none of those other people hung out with us again. But Mark, Reese, and I were still best friends for many years afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not hanging out no more neither. This the first time we hang out. Well, I don't know if it was the first time for everyone, but basically we gonna hang out and we end up killing somebody here. Nah, I'm good on y'all. I'm out. Adios. And we got away. No, sir, ski. I'm done.
This is a true story. It happened to me when I was just a kid, but the thought of it still haunts me to this day. When I was 8 years old, I lived in a suburban neighborhood just south of Kansas. Back then, I lived next to a childhood friend of mine named Ben and his little sister Maggie. We used to play together all the time, especially in their front yard. Even then, I could tell that there was something off about them. Both Ben and Maggie looked skinny and malnourished. Their eyes were always sunken, and their clothes were always tattered. Their house was also a sight for sore eyes. Overgrown lawns, cracked windows, termite-infested walls, you name it. I always chalked all that up to the fact that their mom died a few years back, leaving them with just their dad. Speaking of their dad, I was always scared of him growing up, and with the way he looked, who could blame me? He was very muscular with gruesome burn scars on one side of his face. His eyes were red and bloodshot, and both his legs had been amputated and replaced with prosthetics. But it wasn't just his looks that scared me. He was very grouchy and would yell at Ben and Maggie every chance. Looks that scared me. He was very grouchy and would yell at Ben and Maggie every chance he got. One time, we were playing on the front lawn when he came home out of the blue. He yelled at Ben for bringing me over to their yard. Then, he held me by the collar and threatened to give me a good beating the next time he saw me near their house. I cried all the way home after that ordeal. After a while, I stopped seeing Maggie entirely. I was so scared that maybe something had happened to her. I once overheard my parents gossiping that Ben's dad was an ex-soldier who'd received a dishonorable discharge when he slaughtered a village full of innocent civilians, and that he probably killed his wife and buried her in the basement because her body was never found. I was horrified by the thought that he had done the same thing to Maggie. Ben and I still kept playing together even though my folks warned me not.
Well, that's what they were assuming, though, because I ain't gonna lie. I was feeling bad for him because I felt like when he said a burn on the face and then those two legs being amputated, I was like, something happened where he probably tried to rescue his wife but couldn't, and end up also damaging himself hella bad and also checked out as well. But I don't know. Let's see what's going on.
Because her body was never found. I was horrified by the thought that he had done the same thing to Maggie. Ben and I still kept playing together even though my folks warned me not to. One of his favorite games to play was hide and seek. We would play in my house and in his front yard whenever his dad was gone. Ben was a pro at hiding. You could search for hours without finding him. This always got me really hot and bothered. One day, as we were playing hide and seek in the yard, when Ben suggested something crazy. Hey, how about we play hide and seek in my house for a change?
Hell no. Hell no, man. Stop playing with me, boy.
Bothered. One day, as we were playing hide and seek in the yard, when Ben suggested something crazy. Hey, how about we play hide and seek in my house for a change? I don't know. You sure it's safe? What if your dad shows up? What are you, chicken? My dad's not going to be back till nighttime. We should definitely be done playing by then. I was a little skeptical, but to be honest, a part of me always wondered what the inside of their house looked like. Also, playing hide and seek inside with lots of great hiding spots would finally give me a chance to get one over Ben. So, I agreed and went into his house. Just as expected, the place was a dump. Busted light bulbs, empty beer cans in every corner, and food stains on the wall. It looked more like a refugee camp than a home. Then, I noticed something suspicious. The basement door was locked and chained shut. I remember wondering if Ben's mom was actually buried down there. Ben told me I could hide anywhere, including the upstairs bedroom, but I was not allowed to go into the basement, no matter the circumstance. Not that I could if I wanted to. The place was locked up tighter than Alcatraz. All right then, you go hide and I'll count. I immediately entered the upstairs bedroom and noticed a closet, which I thought would make the perfect hiding spot. I climbed into it and closed the doors, waiting for the game to start. Little did I know the wall behind the closet had fallen apart, and as soon as I leaned my back into it, I fell through the wall and down into the basement. The fall was so bad I hit my head and blanked out. By the time I came to, it was already dark outside, and Ben had been looking all over for me. There was only one light bulb in the basement, and it was dim, so I could hardly see anything.
Oh, sweet.
The basement was creepy. There were lots of mounted animals, and each of them looking like they were staring right at me. Ben? Ben, where are you? I called for my friend as I searched for a way out. Suddenly, I tripped over something and fell. Looking closely, I realized it was a mound of dirt that looked suspiciously like a grave. My skin turned pale and my throat ran dry as I imagined Ben's mom and his sister buried underneath that dirt pile. As if things weren't spooky enough, I heard crying sounds coming from a chained door in the basement. Was it a ghost? I wondered. I was scared out of my mind, but I had to find out. I inched closer and peeked through the gap in the door. I was shocked to see Maggie chained to a heater. She had marks all over her body, and she looked like she hadn't eaten for days. Before I could react to that, I heard the basement door open. Ben's dad was back, and he was coming into the basement. I quickly hid behind one of the stuffed animals. He saw my footprints and immediately knew someone else.
I clipped that nigga, dog. Hey, I thought it was going to be a jump scare. That's why I got the backing up. I clipped his ass. Stop playing me. I know, look, he used to serve his shit. And he ain't about to be that strong on standing on two stilts or two, I don't know what you call them. I'm gonna mix doggy bone shit up. That nigga shit gonna buckle. If Iron Man don't get the fuck away from me, dog.
Animals. He saw my footprints and immediately knew someone else was in the basement. He searched for me and was only a few inches away before Ben climbed down the stairs to distract him. Father, welcome back.
Boy, how many times have I told you to never step foot in this basement?
He grabbed Ben and began slapping him around.
Slap that nigga so. Hey, I don't. We go see if it's real or not. But as far as the animation, I was like, dang, he slapped that nigga so hard when he went the wrong direction. It's
foot in this basement.
He grabbed Ben and began slapping him around. I took that opportunity to sneak away, but not before exchanging a quick glance with Ben as I snuck out. As soon as I got home, I told my parents all that happened within a matter of hours. The police and social service workers came over to Ben's house and arrested Ben's dad. Apparently, he disciplined Ben and Maggie by locking them up in the basement without food and water for days. And as for the mound of dirt, thankfully there were no dead bodies in it, just his old war medals and memorabilia. He was suffering from an acute case of PTSD and took it out on his children. Afterward, Ben and Maggie moved to their aunt's place in North Carolina. I never saw or heard from the two again, but I can't shake the feeling of what would have happened to me if their dad had found me in the basement that day.
Yeah, because if dad would have found you, that would have went super duper sour, man. I ain't gonna lie. From the first story, though, this video had me. That whole little asylum story, that one had me on edge, man. And I thought it was gonna be true because, you know, I admire some of these ones in the end. You'll get the connection of the truth where it's like, yo, this one was based around or loosely based on blah, blah, blah. Because it sounded like something that could have happened until the part we already spoke about. And I was like, I don't think so. But either way it go, though, overall, though, definitely enjoyed these stories. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. Hey, go ahead and enjoy your day, your morning, your evening, your night. At the time, it's fall season, so enjoy your fall season as well, dog. Trick or treat. But I'm out. I just trick or treat your ass. I don't know why.